YouTube. Today in the Naughty Librarian we have a very special episode because we are joined by BT Gottfred, the author of The Handsome Girl and Her Beautiful Boy, which is coming out very soon. Hi!
How you doing?
I'm great. I'm so excited that I got to read this book before it came out.
Well, thank you for reading it. It means a lot.
I am kind of obsessed with your books because you write the most adorable characters.
Adorable? Okay. All right.
Lovable and realistic and awkward and everything.
Yeah.
Speaking of amazing characters, let's talk about Art and Z in The Handsome Girl and Her Beautiful Boy. So, do you want to tell us what the story's about, what inspired it?
Sure. So, Art is the beautiful boy, and Z is the handsome girl. And they go to the same high school. They have seen each other around, but never kind of face to face. Then up face to face, and Art falls instantly in love and tells Z as much. And of course, everybody in school thinks Z is a lesbian and Art is gay, and they both don't think that whatsoever. But Z does think Art is gay, so she dismisses his feelings immediately as kind of a misguided crush sort of thing. But a lot of drama and tragedy and craziness happens in their lives that they kind of keep getting drawn together, and eventually they realize they have more in common than they could have even imagined. So,
yay!
Yeah, that's a little like a summary without giving away too much of the details, right?
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary.
Right.
It's a very unique love story.
Yes. I would like to think that as well.
Yeah. And these characters in particular are very unique because in like the queer YA genre, there's a lot of books about kids who fall into like a particular category of the LGBTQ plus spectrum. And Art and Z are kind of like kids who really don't fall into any category. And I haven't really read like a lot of books about kids who are fluid. Is that something you really wanted to explore going into this, or is it just kind of something that came up as you were meeting these characters?
Yeah, I think for me, I often wait for character voices to start becoming really prominent in my own brain before I kind of unleash them on the page. They talk louder and louder and louder until I have to kind of just let them loose. In the case of Z and Art, they kind of announced themselves and who they were kind of emotionally and physically and psychologically, and then I kind of unleashed them, and then I just kind of sit there and watch what they do. And I had no idea that it was going to evolve the way it was until I started having them interact with each other, and I think they discovered their fluidity in many ways by dating each other first. And so I think that's probably the case for a lot of people, is that what happens. I also was going through a phase in my life that I all my best friends were suddenly gay men, and so I was hanging out with a lot of gay men, and one day one of them said, "Don't I look beautiful as a woman?" And he handed me his cell phone, which had a bunch of pictures of him dressed up as a woman. And I found him fascinatingly attractive, and I'm like, it helped me kind of when I wanted to explore kind of what that meant for me in my sexuality, and what that means. It doesn't mean anything, or so I was fascinated by kind of where that would lead me. So,
has any character of yours like ever completely blindsided you, where you're riding along, you're like, why are they doing this? And you can't stop them, but you know they're going to do something horrible. Like, have they ever like completely surprised you?
As much as I can, I consider myself more just a typist of just sit there and watching what my characters are doing, watch what they're thinking, and just kind of write as much down as possible without judging what they're doing, without judging what they're saying, and then yes, in the end I'll cut some for pace and plot, but more than anything, I'll just monitor and record what they're doing. With Nerdy and Dirty, there ended up being like a 40-page sex scene I got to the end of like, oh my god, it was 40 pages long. And so it shocked me that they just were that in depth. I mean, I won't give away too much, but that they were willing to go at it for that long, in that way. It was as much as emotional as a physical journey, but With handsome girl and beautiful boy, I would say especially some of Art's development as he starts to feel abandoned, kind of in the middle to end. It shocked me. Not shocked me. It felt very organic when it happened, but I hadn't planned to go the places Art goes, and then he did, and I'm like, all right, that makes sense. It makes sense. As I was writing, I'm like, I can't believe Art's doing these things. But afterwards, I'm like, of course, Art did these things.
Yeah, of course. Art is probably one of my all-time favorite characters, like, ever, of anything. He's the Manic Pixie Dream Boy of my soul.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I said that to him, he would be like, thank you.
Yes, he absolutely would. Yes.
He would love
He
that.
might be the Manic Pixie Dream Boy of my soul. So, like, he's definitely, he feels like my son from my a relationship I had with another man, like so in that alternate universe where that can happen, so that's Art is magical.
Yeah, I feel like if Art and Penelope from Nerdy and the Dirty made a baby, like, it would be me. So
all right,
I'm
good.
like,
That's all right. That makes a lot of sense.
I feel like those are my two characters I like identify with the most.
Yeah. Well, Penelope from Nerdy and Dirty is definitely probably the closest to me on a on a literal and linear level to who I am. Art definitely is the person I wouldn't want to. Art would be the person you'd want to be stuck on an island with. Like, he would never be boring.
He would never be boring.
He would never be negative. He would constantly, like, kind of keep your spirits up.
You find new recipes for coconuts,
yes,
like, every
exactly,
day.
Yes. He would.
Art's the best. Well, all of these characters in your books, they all exist in the same universe, and they kind of all go to the same school, which I like because I get cameos in all the books. I'm like, oh, they're back! And I get really excited. Do you think you'd ever go back to this universe and tell another story? And what kind of characters would you want to, like, talk about the most?
Well, strangely enough, there's a character in that has a slightly bigger role in Nerdy and Dirty. He's also mentioned in this called Gator Green. Gator Green. That I've actually written an entire novel with him.
Shut up.
Yes.
I was thinking, I'm like, is he gonna write a book about Gator? Because, like, he needs a book.
Yeah. So Gator has a whole book written on him, and it's actually goes to slightly supernatural places. I shouldn't even say slightly. It's full supernatural places. So I think there's eventually a time that will come out. The book itself, it was one of the most challenging things I've written, and I think it needs a little bit more work before I can kind of bring it out in the world. There is a character in this book, Handsome Girl and Beautiful Boy, that they never get his name, but that he is they both kind of instantly have a crush on at that cafe, and he is one half of the novel I've been writing most recently. So.
Oh. I'm so excited. Like, everyone's gonna see my face, like.
Yeah. And I'm definitely gonna go to different places with the next novel. There's both because of my life and because I want to challenge myself in new ways. So.
I never knew this world was gonna be magical someday.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Like, I'm holding it in, but I'm just like, Gator Green and magic. Like,
It's good. It's good.
This is the best news I've had all day. I love your acknowledgments in your author's notes section of your books because you have your main characters co-write them or co-opt them, so to speak. And what kind of gave you the idea to do that? Because it's totally meta and I'm obsessed with it.
Well, I think for my first book, which is about Trevor and Carolina, it's Forever for a Year, and it had been probably 6 months since I had finished writing the book when they asked me if I want to do acknowledgments, and I look at all kind of opportunities to write anything as a creative opportunity, so I didn't want to do something that wasn't creative in some level, and then so it was somewhat based in that, wanting to do something that kind of flexed my muscles a little bit on the creative side. I also just missed the characters, so I wanted to hang out with them one more time, and without to give away too much. You could say it's almost an epilogue.
Yeah.
Especially with Forever for a Year. The other two books, it's more thematic. expanding, you know, theme expanding, than plot expanding. But with Forever Freer, it really it evolves the plot.
Yeah, it was a bit of an awkward moment for Trevor and Carolina, but like I love it because now you're part of your own story.
Yeah.
Like you've become part of it.
Yeah, and I took that to the next level with the nerdy and dirty acknowledgments, and then with this one in particular, the acknowledgments probably I dealt with much of what I was trying to accomplish with all three of my books. So kind of and in many ways trying to answer the question for myself. I put myself in that situation where characters in some ways know more about why I wrote the book than I do, and so it allowed them to kind of illuminate my own brain and what I was trying to accomplish.
A theme in all of your books is sexuality, and I think it's important to show like a realistic depiction of sexuality. And is that something that you go into these stories with that mentality about, or is it just like you were saying, like your characters get into it and you're like, well, I gotta write it?
I certainly think when I started writing these books, and if you consider them all a series, one of my main intentions was to treat sexuality with the rawness and the joy that I think sexuality should be treated, but also the risks and the consequences that happen. The way I look at, especially for books, that they can give you kind of context and a kind of a consciousness, put you right inside their heads. And so I really wanted to take advantage of what books can do that nothing else can do in that matter. And so I wanted to kind of explore that, very frankly, both for myself, because I wish I had these books when I was a kid, because I made a lot of mistakes that my characters do make, but I feel like if I had read these books before that, I would have not made those mistakes, or at least made them with a little more style.
Also, something in your books in regards to sexuality, you always show clear consent, which is super important because people might not know what that is, even though it's super obvious what that is.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that in all your books, there's like a moment that's very clear consent.
Yes.
And that's important to show, and not enough books show that.
Yeah. I think, well, first of all, it's just something I've always done, but it's obviously you also want your characters to be likable, and you do like them, and you want when you're with somebody you love or falling in love, you're gonna be respectful in that way. So to me, if there wasn't consent, is it really love, right? Like, so books that have non-clear consensual sexual relationships and then try to call it a love story, it's just complicated, and you better acknowledge the complications that come along with that. Especially, all my books were written before the Me Too movement, but any book written now after the Me Too movement, like if there's not consent, you've got a complicated, shadowy relationship, and you need to acknowledge it as such.
Yeah. You had consent before it was like necessary for everybody.
Yes, I like to think I
trailblazing.
maybe.
Yes, cheers. Art and Z in this, they invent the Zert scale, quote unquote, the Zert scale. And why don't you explain that a little bit? Because their dissertation in here, it's like, it's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
But it makes sense in a strange way.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for reading it. I think,
Yes.
of all the reviews I've read online and so forth so far, I don't think anybody's acknowledged it, which means to me that nobody's actually read it besides you. So
people don't know to read the author's notes because they think it's just gonna be like, being sappy. But I'm like, no,
you read all the way to the end. It's just their attempt to make sense of their relationship, of all relationships. Why certain people are attracted to certain people. I won't get into the Olux and Zulu definitions. That'll be a little complicated.
You have to read the book for that.
Yeah, but it's basically talking about masculine and feminine balance, and I've long had a theory that we're going to a place where everyone will be 50-50 balance of masculine and feminine, and I already think vast majority of younger people are, and most people that are either creative or interested in creative things tend to be a balance of masculine and feminine, very 50-50. And then you are then drawn to another person that is also a balance of masculine and femininity in the same way, because it's just chemistry. Like if I'm 50-50 masculine feminine, then I'm going to want to have somebody that's also 50-50 masculine feminine, whether it's a friendship with a man, a friendship with a woman, or a romantic partnership, you know.
It makes like relationships into like an equation, essentially. Like if I'm 70-30, like 70% feminine and 30% masculine, I want to find a dude who's like 70% masculine and 30% feminine, because then it's a complete like 100%. There's a lot of math.
A little math. Well, did you have a favorite specific moment, like that you can remember, like what? Like that wasn't necessarily a big plot thing or whatnot.
I don't know. I just loved like how Art describes everything, because he's just made of histrionics. He's just like, everything's like 4.2 with him too. He's like, I waited approximately 4.2 minutes and I had to turn my phone back on because I couldn't wait any longer. Obviously. Like, I'm the kind of person who uses like a lot of exclamation points when I like write, and I feel like I need to exclaim a lot of things.
For
and so
art,
does Art.
everything is high stakes for Art, and it makes it more interesting for his life and more interesting for most of the people around his life. Yeah, I was for the audiobook. There's art charts in here, and so the audiobook people are like, well, how should we do these art charts, because we can't obviously visually, you know, we have to describe them. And so they're like, can you give me percentages, you know? So of course what I had to do was just going through and make sure majority of the numbers ended in 4.2.
He does have a thing for 4.2.
Yes, he does.
Okay, you know what, I'm gonna do this mean thing and ask you to play favorites.
Uh-oh.
From all of your characters, who is your favorite? I know you love them all the same.
Yes.
But we're gonna make you play favorites.
Well, of course, it's like they are my children or my best friends, and to ask one favorite versus the other, I do think I could put, you know, them in certain categories. Like if I wanted the one person to kind of to take charge of the world, you know, it might be somebody like Z. You know what I mean? Like she's just kind of level-headed and cool and collected in a way that way. If I wanted somebody to like be stuck in an island with, definitely be Art. If I wanted somebody to co-write a book with me, it definitely would be Penelope from Nerdy and Dirty. If
Proofreading the book would be Benedict.
Proofreading the book would be Benedict. If I wanted somebody that would constantly make me aware of a totally unique perspective, it would be something like Benedict. The person with the biggest heart and the biggest, most love to give is Carolina from Forever for a Year. And lastly, Trevor is probably the closest thing to my high school self. And so if I'd want somebody to kind of relive much of my life through, you know, and witness me making the same mistakes over and over again, it'd probably be Trevor.
Oh, well, I feel like Trevor is like someone that like a lot of people can relate to.
Yeah. I mean, I love. It's funny. Trevor and Z have a moment in Handsome Girl.
They do.
And I feel like Trevor and Z probably chemically are the most natural fit as far as like natural, like when you think of a male-female relationship and kind of a standard, they're in many ways the most chemically kind of natural with each other.
Do you think you're gonna talk about Jaden more? Because I kind of really loved him.
Jaden was fascinating, and
he's very much like Art.
Yes, Jaden also evolved the most from the initial draft to the edit, because of. I feel like it took me a while to understand not just who Jaden was specifically. I was so specific who Art was that I only saw Jaden through his Art's eyes, and I think that held Jaden back a little bit at first. And that when I let Jaden be who he needed to be versus who Art needed him to be, he became much more three-dimensional and also much more kind of important to what the book is. So.
I'd like to see a story about Jaden and Iris. They're good little side characters.
Yeah.
I like Iris a lot.
Yeah, no, I like Iris.
She's so genuinely kind.
She is the best friend people could have.
She is.
Yeah.
I mean, she would wear a cardigan every day.
Yes.
Like, she's very, like, dresses like a soccer mom, but I love her. Like, very different from Penelope, but, like, it works.
Yeah.
I love her. And then she was with Z, and she's nice as Z, and I was like, oh. It was so cute. It was like seeing monkeys learn how to use tools for the first time.
Yeah, so, and I feel like both Art and Z in their exploration had, were lucky to find people like Jaden and Iris.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so I cannot recommend The Handsome Girl and Her Beautiful Boy more. I loved it to bits. All of the characters are wonderful and lovable, and I don't know how you come up with them, because they're so relatable, even though you might not have anything in common with them. There's something about them that, like, they just get under your skin in the best way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
This book comes out on May 8th. And do you have any events coming up with it?
We'll be able to announce something soon.
Okay. So it'll be in the comments down below, or not the comments, whatever this blurb is down here. Look in there and I'll put events. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like, and if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye! I go touch the camera, but it's too far.